Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Whoever you are, wherever you are so welcome. We are made whole by having you all here today. Today's service is led by Reverend Matthew Funcareri, our settled minister. Many thanks to the large amount of folks who helped put today's service and every service together, which today includes Chris Tackett, Joel Yelland for hospitality, our RE coordinator, Stacy Sosa, who along with volunteers helps run RE, our audiovisual crew, which today includes Robin, Ann, Chuck, and Lee, as well as hospitality, and welcoming, who greeted you when we all came in. As we continue to explore April's theme on transformation, I'm reminded of all that has transformed here just in the last few years. Coming back from the pandemic wasn't just coming back to a new building and a new minister. We as a group have changed. People have left, some have moved, some have passed, some have found that this wasn't the spiritual home they were needing at this time. People have also joined for a variety of reasons, connecting to something here that resonates for them, whether it's belonging, spiritual growth, or relationships they've formed. This transformation is part of congregational life, providing both joy and sorrow as we reflect on our changing congregations and connections. We allow space for both because relationships matter. Although I've never known it by the name shared ministry, the concepts behind it are part of what draws me to this faith. The idea that we, in relationship together, through these interconnections, share our talents to build something that is greater than the sum of our parts is inspiring and a paradigm shift. It moves us away from the more hierarchical faiths that many of us may be familiar with, which include these clear power and authority lines and figures, and sometimes fear-based leadership and messaging. It moves us towards love, to being a faith that can remain in relationship with each other with differences. And yes, while it can be messy, because sometimes clearly defined roles means less chaos and less emails, it allows us to practice deeper connection. In the most recent UUA magazine, Elaine McCardle, in her article, Shared Ministry Helps UU Communities Thrive, talks about how shared ministry means sharing in the responsibilities of the community. And so each week, we thank all the people who put this service together, because that is shared ministry. We also want to thank the people who put together the groups, the events, the committees that happen each week, because that is also shared ministry. There's a lot of work that goes into running our congregation. A Brianna Weiss poem that I read recently came to mind. If we want gardens, we must become the gardeners. If we want love, we must be loving. If we want change, we must alter our own course. If we want connection, we must reach. If we want place, we must be steady. If we want home, we must nurture our home. If we want to love who we are, we must become who we most respect and admire. Thank you. Today's chalice lighting is Dust Devil poem by Juan Olivares. Whirling through the desert sands, cutting straight across the wastes, prolonging its short life while it can, it tears along in desperate haste. Picking up debris and dust as it makes its way along, birds lose feathers from mighty gusts, for being so small, it can be so strong. Off in the distance you can see the whirling dervish as it nears, batten the hatches, 'cause it will be, speeding up as it changes gears. And at the last moment, it's suddenly gone, playing out its life in the wink of an eye, but soon another will come along, whirling and twisting from the ground to the sky. Thank you.
Each week, we gather, and we recall that since we have last been here, so much has happened in our lives. And we pause and have a ritual of sharing. And Michelle, if you would join me. We pour out water that has been collected by our congregation, and later this month we will collect more, and from our Sonoran skies. So this is the water that represents our congregation and our bonds. And we share in joys and in sorrows.
Thank you. The Pastoral Care Committee has several joys and concerns that I'm sharing today that members have indicated they wanted shared. A joy is Jamili Omar, who wears many hats at our Baja 4 community, ministerial intern, coordinator of Lifespan Faith Development at UUCT, and coordinator of the Baja 4 projects, has received preliminary fellowship after her recent interview with the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. She is well on her way to becoming an ordained minister, and we celebrate with her. And sorrow, and I'm sure many of you join in this sorrow, the anger, grief, fear, and confusion at the Arizona Supreme Court's ruling to turn reproductive rights back to pre-statehood times. But hopefully this will eventually result in a joy because it will turn the tide. My final concern is from Chris and Bonnie Baird. I, along with several members of the community, have been privy to what has been going on in their life and supporting them through the crisis that wound up with a final diagnosis for Chris of multiple myeloma. He right now is getting chemotherapy. They have an oncologist here that they really like, and they had a consult at the Mayo Clinic the other day who affirmed that the treatment that he is getting is making a difference, and they are now ready to open their arms to support from the rest of you. So Bonnie is asking for people to reach out if you're so inclined, but do it by text to her, and her text address is in the Peace Directory. Thanks.
Thank you. We share these so that we can hear what's happening in individual lives. And if you would like to offer some of what's happening in your life, a joy or a sorrow, we invite you to contact our pastoral care team. We do have Tom Bunch's email on here, and in the future we're going to start rotating who you might connect, but any of these faces are people that you can share, and together we will have that spoken on Sunday mornings. And we do that because we want to hear about one another's lives. But we also do it because we want to respond. Each joy we celebrate together. Each sorrow we can offer comfort and care. And so I take a stone for those joys, and I put it in the water of our community. I take another stone for the sorrows and place that in the waters as well. For all that has been spoken and all that remains silent within our hearts, we are a community that celebrates, that comforts, that is together. May it be so. Our opening hymn will come up in just a second. A Fierce Unrest, number 304 in your hymnal. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join your voices together with Joel as our lead.
A fierce unrest is at the core of all existing things. It was the eager wish to soar that gave the gods their wings. There throbs through all the words that are this heartbeat soft and strong, and shaken system star by star awake and glow in song. But for the urge of this unrest, these joyous fears are mute. But for the rebel in our breast, had we remained as brutes, when baffled lips demanded speech, translated into birth, one day the lyric word shall reach from earth to laughing earth. From deed to dream, from dream to deed, from daring hope to hope, the restless wish, the instant need, still drive us up the slope. When baffled lip, sing the stinging discontent that leaves from star to star.
Dust and heat. Dust and heat in the world, and surely dust and heat here in Arizona this week. The state Supreme Court reinstating an archaic law, stealing reproductive rights, devaluing our humanity, endangering women. We have a fierce unrest among us. Anger, fear, grief, confusion, just to name a few of the natural reactions to this abnormal circumstance. And when we gather as a faith community, you are invited to bring all you are thinking, all that you are feeling here. It makes us whole. Together we can perceive the tossing and twisting political debris and detritus that seeks to ruffle up, to rile up the people of our desert state, to spin us around, divide us, conquer. We can see, when we gather, the dust devil being kicked up, whirling through the desert sands, cutting straight across the wastes, prolonging its short life while it can. It tears along in desperate haste. And so I invite you as a community of faith to a guided meditation based on the teachings of Chris Sarnak, to find calm in a storm. For when we are together, we can find calm in the storm, in the middle of the whirlwinds of all of the dust and the heat. Let's use our breath to center, to create a quiet place where you can rest, where we can reset as life kicks up and swirls around us. So find a comfortable position, resting in the seat. If your arms are at your sides or hands folded in your lap, feet firmly touching the ground. And if you're willing, close your eyes. Turn your attention to your breath, breathing in and out. On each exhale, see if you can soften your face, relax your jaw, drop your shoulders, and rest deeper into your chair. And just breathe. Keep breathing in and out. As you breathe, notice where your body feels calm. Maybe it's in your nostrils, or your throat, or your chest, or deep in your belly. Wherever you feel it strongly, focus your attention and breathe in and out. If your anger or your grief or your fear arises, allow it. And then gently bring your attention back to breath and rest your awareness there. Let the rising and the falling of breath ground you in this moment. Breathing in and breathing out. Keep breathing and focus on how it feels, how it connects you to a place deep within yourself that's quiet, that's peaceful. If it helps to visualize the dust and heat whirling around, then welcome that too. Winds may be strong, dust and debris disorienting, but at the center is the eye of stillness, your place of calm. Rest within the turbulence around us. And you can return to this place anytime, just using your breath. No reacting, no judging. Simply observe. As dust and heat twists and turns around us, constantly moving, you can rest at the center of it all. Breathing in, breathing out. And no matter how intense it becomes, your calm here in the eye, resting in this place, in this people. Let go of the swirling around you. Come back to breath. And remember, dust devils are temporary. The whirlwinds, they end. And this, too, shall pass. Take a few more breaths, calming that center in and out. In and out. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Today's reading is Everything is Still on Fire by Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. Everything is still on fire. Despite your best efforts, in addition to living, it is clear that fire or not, you must level up in what it means to thrive. Right now, that means wrestling with the truth in the fact that everything is not all your fault. I am sorry that everything is still on fire. Once hate catches, the winds of not my problem blow and the blaze is hard to stop. But hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You, in community, have an answer. You have a response to systems of power and control and to the cost of suffering. You and your community together are the answer. You are not only a people of flame, but also a people of cold, clear truth. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish and where you still reach. Everything is still on fire, but all is not lost. You remain more nimble than steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough.
Next weekend, April 20 and 21st, Saturday and Sunday, is the celebration of our answer. It's a celebration of our answer to the fires and to the dust and the heat. It's a celebration of community. It's a celebration of us. It's a celebration of shared ministry. And we're going to gather in 4 different events to reflect who we are as a congregation in just action, in a potluck social, in Sunday worship, and in a ritual recognizing shared ministry. And we're going to start on Saturday morning with the Santa Cruz River cleanup. And we have some graphics to go along with this. This community action has 7 local partners organizing cleanup in the Santa Cruz riverbed. These partner organizations have been canvassing Barrio Hollywood, where the action is going to take place, and they've let the neighborhood know what's happening and invited them to join us. And so they anticipate 150 people will be coming to share in the work, in the breakfast and the lunch trucks, in the music, and to gather as a community. And that reflects our established and growing partnerships that we make to show up and to make change together. If you're coming, please use our website, and we have a graphic for this as well, to navigate with, there's a button that goes to our installation page. So you go to mvuu.org, and then you click on that one right there, and then you can see all 4 events, but there's an RSVP link that you can follow, because when you register for the cleanup, we need you also to sign a release form. Saturday evening, we have our chili feed and dance. This social shindig with outstanding music, the Blue Prairie Dogs and Tucson's Little Big Band, reflects the joy that we find in our social gatherings. And in addition to those bands, we're having chili with great fixings that we're making for one another, and we get to come into this space and just dance. And Joel and Warren have a couple of announcements about Saturday evening. Come on up. At the same time works as well. Yeah. I was going to let him talk first. All right, well, you can stay here. He's got his mic.
This sounds like noblesse oblige here. The chili feed will be from 6 to 9 on Saturday. I want to thank all the volunteers who have volunteered their culinary skills, and also the items for decorations, okay? They basically flooded in. I do need more help, though. I need 6 volunteers for Saturday morning, We're going to set up, cover the tables, make the centerpieces, all kinds of good stuff. We will meet at 11 o'clock for that, right here on the patio. Also, I need 4 volunteers for the meal itself. You'll be the wait staff. We just need someone to circulate, make sure that items are being replenished in the food tables, and to start clearing the tables. So 4. For the 6 for the morning and the 4 for the afternoon, which will start about 2, okay, I would like you to see me. If Corinne Carlson Cox is in the congregation, could she please see me? Because I have no contact information for you, and I would like to thank you. We should be done by, the event stops at 9. We should be done with cleanup and so forth by 10. I'm not going to have a list for cleanup. People have been very generous with their time following the coffee hours, and that's what I think we'll do. Okay? See me for any questions. Thank you.
Now I get to call for more volunteers.
Right here. I need you to use this
Okay. What we need is help 3 times during the weekend. The initial setup of the tables and chairs out in the patio will be at 10 in the morning on Friday, the 19th. Okay? We also are going to need to clear all the chairs out of the sanctuary, which will be stored in the mesquite room and part of the RE room. On Saturday the 20th, after the dance, which as Joel said is ending around 9, we're going to need to reverse that and move all of the chairs from the mesquite in the RE room back into the sanctuary for Sunday morning. Okay? We're hoping that people after the dance, as Joel said, will be right in there and say, great, let's do it, let's move it. Okay? It's going to be a little chaotic, guaranteed, because Joel's going to be doing his stuff, we're going to be doing our stuff in here, but if we want to have chairs in the sanctuary Sunday morning, you got to help. Okay? Then tear down, which is be simple, is going to be on Monday morning at 10 in the morning. That's just going to be rearranging the patio for after the dinner on Saturday and Sunday night. That's round 1. Round 2. A while ago, made up a chart for parking. Oh, I can do this, I think. Yep. Okay. Anyway, Tom did this chart. It's gorgeous, but it's limited. Okay. So, mine isn't anywhere as pretty, and it has most of the same things with a couple of additions. The gravel area in front of the storage thing, there's enough room to have 2 rows of cars. That's what this is. Okay? There's also room, which we haven't needed to use, by the school, or behind the school, that's next to the Sonic. It's just Sonic, then that school. Okay, so there's some parking spaces there. Worst comes to worst, there's the school, the elementary school, a kitty corner from the Circle K, which if you're young and healthy and don't mind a little bit of walking, will be available. So parking potentially could be at a premium. So this will be out in the Oasis for your approval. You will note down here on the bottom it says not to scale.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Joel. See them if you have any questions or you have the time to assist in any of the setup or takedown. Now, back to the schedule of things. Sunday morning, we'll all back here for the service led by Debbie Roberts and our guest preacher, the Reverend Rod Richards. Reverend Rod was a member here some years ago and was encouraged by this congregation to follow his call to ministry. His sermon, In Formation, will touch on our history and our continual process of growth as Unitarian Universalists. And then finally, after we've worked and danced and worshiped together, we celebrate our shared ministry. Now, it's likely that throughout all of that, you already have met our installation preacher, the Reverend Elizabeth Wen. She and other Unitarian Universalist religious professionals and many guests from our community will be joining us as we reflect on the meaning of shared ministry and we commit ourselves to it as we install me as your settled minister. And afterwards, we'll have a brief social time followed by a catered dinner. So there's lots of food, there's lots of involvement. Now, registration for the dinner closed on Friday, and if you forgot to register, but you'd still like to come, you can talk with Ann Tatum, who is currently in our AV booth, running our slides. She's raising her hand. Thank you, Ann. And you can get on a waiting list, which we would love to have, just to know that you're interested in coming. You can still come to the installation without coming to the dinner. You can still come to the social afterwards. And that's a lot. That's a lot. And we're grateful to all of those people who have put in their time and talent, in particular Julie Olson, who has been our facilitator of our 6 different teams. But we do it because it's our way to reflect on the facets of our community. Just action. Social potluck. Sunday worship and the ritual of shared ministry, which we enact every time that we gather. So however you are called, whatever event speaks to you, please join in our installation celebration as we celebrate our answer to all of the dust, all of the heat, and the fires in our world. I have known all 3 of the individuals who will be joining our congregation today for well over 15 years now, and one of them I've known all of their life. You will recognize them from their participation at MVUU, but here's a few more details about each. Teresa was born to a big Catholic family. She discovered her faith was outside the church, though, in the fields and farms, in the flora and the fauna of Burlington, Wisconsin. In 1971, her family relocated to Sierra Vista, Arizona, and she again found meaning in the natural world, but this time in the desert. Later in Tucson, she attended the University of Arizona, and after finishing her studies in graphic design, photography, and classical guitar, she worked as an archaeologist throughout the Southwest. Her oldest son, Moshe, was born in 1995, and until she met Dan, she was a single parent. Homeschooling Moshe and their son, Jesse, who's here today. Hey, Jesse. She discovered folks who were also in touch with the divine in nature, who practiced yoga and shared other values, like Unitarian Universalism. Teresa and her family have been participants in MVUU since 2011, and this year they recognized it was time to join us. Now, the next slide of Dan, I think the picture with him and his guitar basically says it all. His passion is music, and we've been blessed to hear that firsthand. He was born into a Ukrainian Jewish family, and music was with him growing up in Brooklyn, then Queens, then Manhattan, before he discovered the desert's beauty in 1978 and moved to Tucson. He met Teresa in, well, I should not summarize this part. Dan writes, 31 years I worked as a letter carrier for USPS and played music at night. Once, a dog bit my hand, so I couldn't play guitar, and so instead of playing at a packed house concert, I shared a seat in the audience with a beautiful lady. That was Teresa, and we married a year later. Dan tells us that UUism works for him and his family. Both Moshe and Jesse have participated in our church and camp youth programming. And Dan, Teresa, and Jesse have long participated and helped lead the week-long family camp at Camp de Benneville Pines. And that's where my family and I met them. And speaking of my family, Robin, my son, was born in California into our big Unitarian Universalist family while I was serving the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. When he was 5, we moved back to Tucson, and he and his 4 brothers grew up around their grandparents and extended family here. He's been homeschooled all of his life, and this has allowed him to explore the topics which inspire him and are of interest to our family, like ornithology, astronomy, and creative writing, as well as the hero's journey, to name just few of his current studies. And along the way, he's learned a lot about Unitarian Universalism. Having a dad who's a minister will do that. Camp de Benneville Pines, however, taught him the most about his faith. And he's been a part of week-long camps since he was an infant. And he's lived among the UUs for a week as they intentionally tried to express our values. Last summer, the people at senior high camp, his camping peers, the adult staff, so inspired him that he decided to join a UU church. Now, he could have chosen the UU Church of Tucson because it's within walking distance from our house. But instead, he chose to become a member alongside all of you here at Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist. And I'm very proud of him. Dan, Teresa, and Robin, would you join me up here for our ceremony? And Theta as well, thank you. Today we celebrate as you join Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist. Membership represents a promise all members, new and long-standing, make to covenant among ourselves and to our world. As members, we promise each other to live in intentional covenant and to be a community together. And so Dan, Teresa, and Robin, I know that you are ready to join in our covenant, and so I invite you to speak the words that you have been given out loud to this people.
Let's get this involved so the people don't have a chance of hearing.
All right, we'll give it a shot. If you would hold that. There you
How
go.
close? How close?
That's good.
Whoa, okay. Here? All right. I enter this community with hope and possibility in my heart. My membership today is a pledge to participate and support this community. I pledge to deepen my own spiritual and ethical life and show up and return to our relationships. I do this by offering my gifts of time, talent, and treasure to this community and its mission in times of togetherness and separation. I covenant to dedicate myself to the spirit of love that flows through this community. I seek welcome as I join you today in our shared days to come.
Thank you. Members of Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist, here in person and joining us online, I invite you to speak these words aloud as they appear on our slides. We welcome you. There's another one. We seek. And one more. Thank you. Having been welcomed by your peers, now is the time to sign your name in our membership book. Your names mark your choice to take responsibility for our community and our mission of open-hearted engagement, courageous love, and inspiring transformation.
As Vice President of the Board, I confirm that they have entered into membership of this congregation. Our church is more than a building, more than a minister. It's all of us. We rely on all of us to continue our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. In honor of that journey, we offer you these gifts. A gift certificate to the Unitarian Universalist Association's online bookstore, and we hope that you find something there that nourishes you at this time on your path. And the talent and time of MVUU offers you one of our very own poetry monographs and a rose reflecting the beauty we see in each of you. Welcome.
And a blessing. As we welcome you into covenant today, we all begin again. We renew our mission statement of building an open-hearted, welcoming community where we work together in covenant to transform ourselves and our world through love. And we recommit ourselves to our purpose to engage, love, and transform. There is so much that each and every one of us can do alone in this world, and I have seen what each of the three of you, what you have in power and skill and talent. And I've also seen how we know that there is so much that we can only accomplish together. Together, through our combined experiences, learning and teaching one another, we rediscover community, and we've come to understand what our faith means again and again and again. Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist, it restarts today, now. And in a moment, we will sing our covenant song, the covenant you have written to name the right relationships of this congregation. But before that, welcome. 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 Yeah. Go ahead, be seated. We're all set. Thanks. And now our covenant song. Joel will lead us. Please rise in body or in spirit and share your voices together.
With love as our guide, we covenant to welcome understanding, trusting in all of us when our hearts beat differently. With love in our hearts, we covenant to keep faith and remain as we begin again and again to fight this fire. To this we aspire as we begin again and again to light our chalice fire. To this we aspire.
Most mornings, before I even get up, I have already read through my news feed. I've already looked at my smartphone, what my family calls its magic box. And I've seen the headlines, local, statewide, national, global. I've read about human rights. I've read about war, conflict. I've read about hate crimes. I've read about the despair that people feel in our world. And so, of course, I feel angry. And I feel so sad. I feel fear. And I'm perplexed about all of it before I even set a foot on the floor and start my day. Of course, saying all of that out loud, it sounds like a terrible start. There's got to be some better way. And I know that I start this way from my own misconception of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. Somehow we have it mixed into our thoughts and our being that as a UU, we must know what is going on at all times. That somehow I'm responsible when I know. And that I have to do something, anything that I can to change it. And the mistake there, it's a small one, you might have caught it, is that I center all of that on myself. I put the weight of the world on my own shoulders, making them tense and sore before the day begins. It's kind of like I play into that Old West legend about the Savior in the white hat who rides into town and then starts to resolve all of the local issues before riding off into the sunset. Of course, it turns out the legend, it isn't anything like the Old West. You can start to hear the accent just slip in when you put the hat on, can't you? As we have found out this last week, there were awful oppressive laws back then. There were gunfights, there were train heists, there was colonialism and racism, but there was liberty too. Turns out There were open, same-sex, common-law marriages. There were fewer guns than there are today. And there were people working hard alongside one another to live and learn together. Surely there was dust and heat. I'm not saying otherwise, but people weathered it together, never alone. Somehow they found the beauty and the divinity in the desert. They witnessed one another's needs and they helped. And they rediscovered their own humanity. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived or thrived. We wouldn't be here today. And there's a story it reminds me of. Back in 1865, John Batterson Stetson invented the modern cowboy hat. That's right. It was actually after this oppressive law went on the books. A haberdasher in New Jersey, like his father, Stetson was diagnosed with tuberculosis, told that he only had a few months to live. So he went west, if nothing more than to experience this expanding country. And among the indigenous and colonizing folks, among the miners and the farmers, the cowboys and the drovers, a whole spectrum of genders, he found care, he found health, and he found them all wearing bowler hats. The small brim ones with the top, that's actually the hat that won the West. And when a whirlwind came up, those hats with those short brims would blow off and they would roll away. Inspired by that, inspired by Mexican hats, inspired by what he experienced, he imagined a wide brim hat that would give more protection from the dust, better shade from the heat, and pretty much stopped wherever it would landed when it was blown off somebody's head. And so Stetson lived, and he made his vision into reality, and the modern cowboy hat is a symbol of the American West today. Its history challenges those legends of the Old West, and it suggests that we got here today through the whirlwinds of dust and heat, not as rugged individuals, but as communities, caring for and inspiring one another. Now, much, much further back, in 1644, John Milton, the poet of Paradise Lost, addressed the British Parliament in a speech that he called something that's going to be tough to pronounce, Areopagita. In a fearsome unrest, Milton called for the fundamental right of free speech and the freedom of the press, and many of that is precedent which we use today. In it, he said, "I cannot praise a fugitive and cloistered virtue, unexercised and unbreathed, that never sallies forth and sees her adversary, but slinks out of the race, where the immortal garland is run for, not without dust and heat." Put it far less poetically than Milton ever would, practice what you preach. And this is what Unitarian Universalists do. In the 2000s, a marketing research was done, and folks from other faiths were asked about their perceptions of Unitarian Universalists. Across the board, it was stated, we live our faith 24/7. We make covenants to live in right relationship to one another, like our covenant that says, with love as our guide. In fact, folks often call us the love people today, even when they have absolutely no idea what a Unitarian Universalist is. They can't explain what we are, but they witness that we live love as our guide wherever we go. We don't live by doctrines telling us what to believe. We don't live by creeds that we must obey to become members. And we don't live by laws which are unjust and cause suffering. We live by love. Back in June of 2022, the United States Supreme Court struck down Roe versus Wade, a 1973 ruling that protected reproductive rights, honored body autonomy, and respected an individual's right to choose. And when I heard it was overruled, I felt helpless and hopeless. But instead of putting that weight on my shoulders, I turned to Unitarian Universalist religious professionals, my colleagues, and my friends. We shared our heartfelt reactions, and we began to talk about what we would do if those rights were ever stolen from us here in Arizona. We planned to petition and vote for change. We planned to bring people together, and we planned to offer our help to anyone needing an abortion. Guided by love, we made our plans together for the possibility that we didn't know was coming, but came this week. And so in the coming days, we will live out those plans. Now, back on April 2nd of this year, it was reported by NBC News that the Arizona for Abortion Access had all the signatures necessary to put the right to abortion on our ballot. We will vote on it in November. But today, Paula has brought that same petition. If you haven't yet signed it, please do, because more signatures help. Yesterday morning, there was a rally at Reed Park. I learned way too late about it to inform y'all. But as opportunities arise, we will gather with others. We will gather to share our outrage, our fear, our grief, as the fuel for justice, trust, and love. And I and other Unitarian Universalist professionals, we will help anyone who needs an abortion. I don't do that alone. I don't have to. Because Unitarian Universalists, we practice what we preach, but we never, ever do it alone. Like last month when I gathered with colleagues for study and reflection and prayer, and we were led by the Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens from the UU Church in Moscow, Idaho. She knows about dust and heat. With her guidance, we studied the impact of trauma on our congregations, on our ministries, on our souls. We live in a time of overwhelm, she taught us, and I could feel that. Can you? However you're reacting, it is a normal response to an abnormal situation. And when I looked at their faces that day, and I look at yours, I can see it. I can feel it as well. We need one another right now. And the clear truth of that was alive then as it is in this moment. Now, back then, I had brought this Stetson with me with an idea. You see, first I invited all of those colleagues to join us for the installation. And because they all work on Sundays, and I know they couldn't, I invited them to take a picture in it. So we have this. These are the Unitarian Universalist religious professionals of Southern California, of Las Vegas, and of Arizona. And though they can't be here next weekend, they join us in spirit and in hat. And all of this is what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. Well, there's dust and there's heat in the world. Because we're aware. We know. The dust ups in the world, they come and then they'll settle down for a while and then they'll kick right back up again. And so we make plans. And when that day arrives, we will then practice what we preach. And of course, we will never, never, never do it alone. And at the last moment, it's suddenly gone, playing out its life in the wink of an eye. But sooner or another one comes along, whirling and twisting from the ground to the sky. And so for what is now, for what is today, and for all the dust devils and the storms to come, may we choose to live into a shared ministry together as a people united by faith and guided, always guided by love. Amen, aho, ashe. May it be so, because we choose it to be so. I think we've got a song. That's all right. No. But I think you'll enjoy this one. We're going to sing, "We Are a Gentle, Angry People." Chris?
Come on up, Joel. I'm going to surprise you a little bit. There's a piano arrangement in the hymnal. I don't like it, and I've never liked hearing this song sung accompanied. It was written in 1978 by Holly Near in the car as she was driving down from north of San Francisco for the spontaneous rally and protest that arose the day that George Moscone and Harvey Milk was assassinated. In many ways, the beginning of the new era in a lot of political protests, and especially for the LGBTQ, etc. community. So will you please stand with us and sing? Lyrics on the screen. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all of us together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
So I've been a PA now for about a year and a half. And over the last year and a half, I don't know how many of you know this, I've shared this with quite a few of you. I have a big fear of public speaking. So of course I signed up to be a PA. And over the last year and a half, I've had quite a few people come up to me after services and give me feedback. You know, slow down here, do this here, and I've really appreciated it all. And I say all this because I'm trying to get ahead of the curve and admit a mistake I made earlier today. Of course, if there's more feedback outside of this mistake, feel free to come up to me and let me know. When I say thank you for everyone for being here today, I forgot to also welcome those of you who are here virtually. And so please know that was more of my own anxiety and not because I forgot about you. And so thank you for everyone for being here in person and virtually. Elizabeth Wen, in her article Cultivating Communal Care, which was also in the UEA magazine, talks about how communal work takes spiritual muscle to not default to trying to go it alone, and to risk saying yes when it feels unfamiliar. And ultimately, that the work of building community needs all of us. I have learned so much from this community about staying in love. The last few months have been rough, and I have leaned heavily on quite a few of you talking and processing what's been happening. And I can imagine as we move over the next few weeks and months, I will continue leaning on how do we stay in love, how do we use anger in a productive and healthy, functional way. But staying in love, for me, ties into our seventh principle, that we are an interdependent web, and of which the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part of, and that means all of us here today. Thank you, and blessed be. And today's, are we going right to announcements? Yes. So announcements. We have, excellent. So our Woven Basket partner this month. So when we walk out the door in order to get some hospitality, some coffee and snacks by Joel Yelland, who is now I think doing that, there'll be two baskets. There's our Woven Basket partner this month are two elementary schools. And so MVU's school partnerships social justice team is helping Laguna and Hendricks Elementary Schools, two schools in the Flowing Wells Unified School District, meet some of their needs. So in addition to the purchase of school supplies, MVU members and friends have helped in the past 3 years to support internet access for students during the time of COVID in their homes, gift cards for students to purchase clothing, in-classroom tutoring in math, reading, and other areas, 2 campus beautification projects at Laguna, which involved between 12 to 22 MVU volunteers, and school tax credits. Both Hendricks and Laguna elementary schools are federally defined Title I schools, and so that means schools that have large concentrations of low-income students who are enrolled in the free and reduced lunch program. 90% of Laguna students and 70% of Hendricks students qualify for Title I assistance. And so anything that you give will be greatly appreciated. Their needs are great, and not only financially, but if anyone can also help with volunteering. And then we also, our next announcement, I believe, we are having a book sale. Book sale returns on April 28th. And so find good books to purchase, support the growth of our library, and share in the joy of reading. Today's reading, oh, there was one more. So GA General Assembly, so virtual, it's going to be virtual this year, June 20th to 23. I believe there's an article in the newsletter if anyone's interested in being a representative. Oh, good, excellent. Today's reading, Releasing the Flame. Keep the Chalice Flame Burning by Adam Slate. Be kind, be brave, be just, be merciful, be hopeful. This is how we keep the chalice flame burning until we are together again to light it anew.
And in times of fear, and in times of struggle, in times of anger, as well as in times of joy and hope and celebration and political protest, let us never stop dancing Let us never stop playing, and above all, let us never, ever stop singing.